Hey everybody, welcome to the lesson here at THSS Technology. Today we're going to be building on our platformer game here by adding a very simple projectile system that we can aim using the mouse. So let's get started. Well, I'm going to start by creating a new scene up here at the top, and we are going to make this a new 2D scene. Okay, and now we're going to add a sprite 2D node to that, and now we're going to drag in our sprite into here. Okay, so I was thinking to myself, what would be the best weapon to be shooting our projectiles with? Well, of course, we're going to go back to 1989, 1990 with the Super Soaker 50. So I can take my Super Soaker 50 graphic here, drag this in. Let's zoom in a little bit. Perfect, looking good. So let's actually rename the scene. Let's see, Super Soaker 50. The nostalgia is real. Okay, let's save that. Put it in our scenes folder, Super Soaker 50. All right, that is looking good. Kind of right off the bat, we're going to see here that I'm going to want to rotate this gun to kind of follow my mouse. But if I click on my node here and I go to transform and go to my rotate, you're going to see it's going to rotate from the center point of our Super Soaker there. Okay, so we're going to take our sprite, we're going to go to the move tool, and we're going to kind of move it so that the rotate point is now in the handle. Perfect. Okay, that is looking good. Now let's save that again. Let's add a script onto the Super Soaker. Let's make sure we put this into the correct directory here, our scripts directory. Keep things organized, please. And okay, we don't need the ready. Let's get rid of that. And over here in the process, we're going to add a look at command. Okay, look at command, just very simple, and you can tell it what you want to look at. And I want to look at our get global mouse position. Okay, so it's just going to look at our mouse. That's all that's really going to happen here. And if we go to test out the scene real quick, you can kind of see in the upper left hand corner there, it is following us. Okay, that's looking pretty good. And we can actually go back to our player scene now, and we can instantiate that onto there. So let's bring in our Super Soaker. Perfect. Well, that's actually a little too small. So let's scale that up just a little bit. So let's go back into here. Let's go into this. Let's go to transform and maybe make it 1.5 scale. All right, let's instantiate that back here. Super Soaker 50. That's a better size there. Save that scene. Let's do a quick test here. All right, looking good. Okay, excellent. Happy with that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create our projectile for our Super Soaker. Now, you may or may not remember, in the late 80s, early 90s, there was a moral panic, as there always is with each generation, about the Super Soaker, and unfounded urban rumors that those rotten teenagers were putting bleach into the Super Soaker. Never happened, of course, and nor do I recommend this, but we're going to create a little projectile, which we'll call bleach. Okay, sprite 2D. There's my bleach projectile there. Looks totally accurate. That's looking pretty good. And then let's add a script onto that. That's going to our scripts folder. And let's save this. Make sure this is going to our scenes folder. Perfect. Okay. So, looking pretty good here. We don't need the ready again. And let's just make a constant here. Okay, and we're going to call this speed. And let's just set it equal to 300. You can have this set to whatever speed you really want. And then into the process here, what we're going to do is we're going to take the position of this object. So if you just use the word position, it means the object where this is attached to. And we're going to add its transform onto it, okay, like its direction, where it's going. And we're going to take the transform on the x, and we are going to multiply that by its speed, the speed constant that we've set up there at the top, and then we're going to multiply it by delta, which brings it at a nice 60 frames a second. That's going to move it at a proper speed. Okay, so really simple script there, nothing too fancy, and our bleach game object is all done. So we can kind of close that down, and we can go back to our Super Soaker object here. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I need to go into my input map, and I've already added this in before, but in the input map I've created an input for soak. Really easy to add to the input map, of course. We can add new action. We'll call it soak. You can call it fire if you want, but we're not firing. We are soaking, of course. So we're going to add an input map for soak, and we will set it to our left mouse button. Perfect. Okay, so now that that's all done, let's go back to our script for our super soaker here. Okay, so still in the process function, we're going to do an if input, and then we will do is action just pressed. And let's look for our soak action. So if you're pressing that left mouse button, what do you want to happen? Okay, so what we're going to do now is we need to create some objects here. Okay, so we're going to create a new variable in this soak input here, and we're going to call it bleach instance. This is going to be our instance, the noun for our bleach. Okay, and we're going to set that to bleach.instantiate. Okay, but you can see it's actually not finding bleach right now, and that's because we actually haven't set it up. So what we're going to do up here is in the extends, we are going to create a new constant. We're going to call it bleach. Let's do this first. And for our bleach, we are going to preload it. We're going to load it into our scene, and there is our bleach scene right up there. Okay, so when the script first starts, it's going to create a constant called bleach. It's going to preload that as our bleach scene. So now when we go into here, it's going to find bleach and it's going to instantiate it. So instantiate is the verb meaning to bring in. So we've created a variable called bleach instance, a singular instance, the noun of bleach. And what that is going to be, it's going to instantiate our bleach constant here that we have preloaded from our bleach scene. So that is what's going in. Okay. Now if I'm actually going to go ahead and save this, and go back into my game here, I'm going to kind of show you what's going to happen. So if I go to play my game, looking good, and if I click the left mouse button, nothing is happening. Okay, so let's go back and sort this out. Let's save this, and there is our object here. So now what's not happening is it's not actually instantiating the bleach, even though this code is running here. And the reason why is whenever you're instantiating an object, you do have to make it a child. You can't have any orphan game objects, orphan scenes here, nodes. So we have to tell that this bleach instance, which is just our bleach scene, is going to be a child of the main. So we're going to do get tree. We've done get tree several times so far this year. And we're going to go to the root of that tree, that root node. Okay, and to that root node, we're going to add a child. Okay, and what's the child? Well, the child is the bleach instance, okay, which is this variable right here, which is to instantiate our bleach scene up here, okay? So now if we go back, test our game, we should be able to instantiate this. All right, it's working, but it is instantiating up there at the top. It's not actually instantiating where our Super Soaker 50 is, okay? And that's because we actually haven't given it a location yet. Whenever you instantiate something, it just puts it at the 0, 0. So let's give some positional data to our bleach instance. Let's take our bleach instance, okay? And we're going to get its global position, and we're going to set it to the global position. So a little confusing what it's doing. It's taking our bleach instance, which remember is we're instantiating our bleach scene, and we're taking its position and we're making it equal to the global position of the Super Soaker, right? Because that's what this script is attached to, right? So this is putting it to wherever our Super Soaker is. So now if we go and play it, perfect. All right, that's looking good, right? Nothing can go wrong. Well, let's go snipe this goat here. And as you can see, yes, it's putting it at our position, but it's not putting it at the rotation of our Super Soaker. So we can just do the exact same thing. We can take our bleach instance dot global rotation and make it equal to global rotation. Perfect. One final test here. All right, looking good. But, you know, eagle-eyed viewers there might notice that it is instantiating from the central mass of the Super Soaker, not from the actual barrel. So let's get that sorted here. Okay, so in our Super Soaker here, we're going to add a new node, and we're going to add a marker 2D. All right, marker 2D is just a point, and let's put the marker kind of right there in front of the Super Soaker. Perfect. Okay, now let's go back to our code. Let's take our marker, hold down Control, drag it in. So we've created a variable called marker 2D, and you can rename that to barrel or whatever you want to do. And then for the global position where we're spawning it, instead of the global position of the Super Soaker, let's take the marker 2Ds dot global position. So it's going to spawn it here, the position of that, not the position of the actual Super Soaker. So let's do one more test here. All right, looking good. Liking that. It is looking excellent. Now, one last problem that we're going to encounter. So I'm just sitting here firing off all these little bleach balls. Don't do this, by the way. But the more I spawn off, every time I'm instantiating something, it is making an object in the game world. So if I go back to the inspector here, my game's still running. And if I go to remote, you're going to see all these little nodes, right? We've got 81 nodes right now. That's the actual instances of our bleach that we've added to the game. And those just keep going forever. So you got to imagine if this game's been running for 10, 15, 20 minutes, you're going to have thousands of these, which will eventually slow down and crash the game. So we're going to sort this out and fix this issue here. Okay? A lot of different ways we could do this. We could experiment with timers, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can totally go about that. But what I think to do is we'll use something new here. So I'm going to go back to my, where's my scene here? Let's go to our bleach scene here. So here's our bleach scene here. Okay, and on our bleach scene, we're going to add a new node. Okay, and the node we're going to use is something called a visible on-screen notifier. Okay, and it's this little box right here. Okay, and this just sends a signal anytime something enters or exits that box. So let's take that visible on-screen notifier here, and let's actually just make it a little bit bigger. Okay, bigger's not always better, but in this case it is helpful. So now we're making a larger box there, and then we're going to go back to our code here. And then what we'll do is, with the visible on-screen notifier selected, and make sure we have our code for this selected, we're going to go to our signals over here, and we're going to go to screen exited. Okay, so now that is connecting to that, and then we'll just do our good friend Q free. So when it exits the screen, when that notifier exits the visible screen, it's going to just erase the object. Perfect. Let's save that. Let's go back to our game here. Okay, nothing looks different from our player. Everything's working just fine. We can see them all the way. Okay, but if we go back to over here and run our game now, you can see on the left-hand side of my screen, we're spawning all those nodes, but they do just erase themselves. Perfect. We hope you found that useful. And there's a lot of things we can add to this. Obviously, if I rotate the gun, it starts facing the wrong way. You'd want to rotate the player. If I rotate the player, it doesn't stay that way, but that's an easy fix that you guys can work on in your own time. All right, we will see you all later.